Well, Janez, final destination, Ile de Maurice. What I've decided is to put myself to the test and create the ultimate final meal for my travel companion.
Stop! Come on!
Our final curtain call. Oh, it's so sad. I don't want it to be over.
I'm so sad, man. I've had such a blast.
Every year, the sleepy town of Hermanus comes alive when they are visited by the giants of the ocean. It's the whale festival, and it's just so incredible to see how these massive whales come so close to shore.
Hermanus has got such a unique position because it is one of the closest viewpoints to see whales.
You could only get closer to the animals if you were actually in the water with them. We went into this mountain on horseback and it was fantastic. Windy day, but really beautiful.
Riding on horseback gives you a completely different perspective. You've got the mountains behind you, the fresh air, the wind, and the beautiful beaches in the distance.
The mountain range that we were in is protected by government, and it's called a Hermanus Reserve. And the beautiful thing about it is that the trees and the shrubbery are all indigenous to South Africa, which gives it a truly African setting.
Jeez, come take a look at this.
This is exactly what I was looking for. This is why I love being back home in South Africa, because it doesn't matter about the weather or what the skies are doing. We've got the best weather in the world. So even in gale force winds, the outdoors lifestyle is still sensational. And the food is probably the best in the world.
There's something about South Africa. It's the air and it's the food. The selection of food. And I'm not a great fan of fish because I'm allergic, but she had crayfish and she had little tapas.
We actually have a whole array of seafood here, especially with the ocean 5 minutes away. You cannot get fresher seafood than this. So we've got a bit of snook, of course, all the crayfish and mussels, prawns, shrimp, tuna over there, and some fresh salmon.
There you go, madame.
Ah, thank you very much. So just an hour and a half away, you have some of the best wine regions in the world, along Paarl, Stellenbosch and Franschhoek, providing Cape Town with the most drinkable grapes in the world. This is a Sauvignon Blanc. It's a dry white wine, and it's very palatable, and it's paired best with seafood. Can we maybe have a braai tomorrow?
Oh, we need to do a braai.
We need to do a braai.
A braai with the braai master, you mean?
That's the one thing I've been craving, is a good old-fashioned braai. And I want pap at the braai. Can you make pap? Because I can't.
Of course I can. The Marine Hotel is quite a special place because it's been around for such a long time, and through the years it hasn't lost its charm. It's still probably the most beautiful and iconic building in the whole of Hermanus. What a location for a hotel.
Isn't it fabulous? Perched here on the cliff tops with this amazing view over Walker Bay.
Has it really been around for 100 years?
It has. It's one of the original buildings, one of the original, now a grand old lady and an icon in the village, and really sit in this incredible position.
Wow. Beautiful.
Isn't it amazing?
It almost has an Art Deco feel to it with the black and the white and the clean lines.
It has, but it all came from a theme of the palms and a palm court feel, and the black and white floor came into play, and then the rest just evolved with Louis McGrath.
We had the most fantastic picnic today. Did the food come from here?
It did. We have an incredible team of chefs in the kitchens, and all the food and the fresh seafood comes from the bay behind us into the harbour and straight into the kitchens, so it couldn't be better.
Now this is what I call homegrown hospitality. This is the presidential come honeymoon suite, and it's beautiful. double levels, and it's done in a very elegant, classical way with a lot of feminine touches. But mainly this room's purpose is because it's angled to one of the most sensational views in the world. Hermanus is famous for its whale watching, and in season, just behind these rocks, you can see some of the greatest mammals of the sea birthing right over here. Now it's just a waiting game.
I wonder if she's seen any whales up there yet.
Well, they're around. She should be able to see some, but of course, if you're up early tomorrow morning, that's the best time to see them when the sea's a bit calmer. And they're right here. As you know, this is one of the best whale watching, land-based whale watching sites in the world. And they come very close because of the cliff path. So Jeannie should have a very good advantage from where she is.
I know what I'm doing for the rest of the evening. I'm watching whales.
Great.
I've never seen a place where you can actually stand on the shoreline and see the biggest mammals in the world.
The Sanbona Wildlife Reserve is in the Little Karoo, known as the Little Karoo, and basically it's in semi-arid desert.
What makes Sanbona so special is they've got the big five, they've got the white line, and it encompasses everything you would want out of a game or wildlife experiences.
That's the beauty of South Africa, though. Just 2 hours outside of Hermanus, almost 4 hours outside of Cape Town, and you've got completely different scenery, completely different terrain wherever you go. We finally arrived at the Sanbona Wildlife Reserve. Now, this place is the perfect depiction of the African dream because it's home to all 5 of the big 5. Not only that, it's 54,000 hectares, making this property the size of Singapore.
There's just something I really love about Africa. I mean, take a look at this place. The sky is so clean and crisp. The colors are so intense. It offers you everything. You've got rock formations with sand paintings that date almost 3,500 years back. There's fauna, there's flora, there's lizards, there's snakes, the big 5.
So we don't need to go all the way to the Kruger Park. It's all right here, just outside of Cape Town.
Sanbona is really special to me. It's a short drive from Cape Town, which means you don't have to trek up to the northern regions of Africa to enjoy wildlife. It's on our back doorstep, and you stay in fantastic accommodation.
We are so excited to be here.
You guys want to come through?
Thank you. I'm not the kind of girl who goes tenting. For me, a tent is a leopard print chalet. So I had to swallow my words by the time I saw this tent. It's the only way to go camping, I tell you. It's a luxurious tent. I can handle this.
As you can see, they have utilized a very African contemporary feel. There's a lot of different textures that have been brought in. They've used the wood, they've used the stone, we've got the canvas roofs, we've got this wonderful glass sliding doors that actually gives you the impression that you are sitting in the bush. Also, a lot of the products that have been used are very earthly, organic. The prints on the chairs and the cushions are very contemporary African prints. The interiors are stunning, but you have to see the exteriors. Let's go outside and I'll show you.
So those are the tents we're going to be staying in, but how safe are they? Because I don't exactly want to be eaten by a lion in the middle of the night.
No, they're perfectly safe. Again, it's a concept that lions aren't familiar with, hard and soft. It's just something that's there. So as long as you're inside your tent during the night, you'll be fine. No problems.
The sand rock art, that's really what I want to see.
And you have such a wide diversity of history here. You know, you were saying about the animals, but it's also about the human history here. But not just the sand, the early farmers. You know, you'll see a lot of grave stones as we drive around. And that was a flu epidemic that was here in the 1918s, 1920s. But again, the sand, there's a big cave that you would have come through on your way through, and there's a lot of rock paintings in there. So we will make a turnaround there tomorrow, definitely.
How big are these tents?
Each unit is 70 to 80 square meters.
That's really big.
They are very big.
This is beautiful.
Thank you.
Is all of the water around here borehole water, and then these panels heated up?
Correct. It's solar and electrical. During summer months, mainly uses the solar energy, and then in winter we move over to electricity.
So it's extremely eco-friendly.
Absolutely. We've actually just been awarded the Green Leaf Award, which is an environmental award, which we are very, very proud of.
Aha, now this is what I call tenting.
They're stunning, aren't they? As you can see, each of these tents is very exclusive, it's very private, you've got your own decks. This is really now your own little piece of paradise.
When you think of a tented camp, you think you're going camping. But trust me, this is completely different. This tented camp was basically only the roof structure that was tented. The rest, they had jacuzzis, they had decks, beautiful bedrooms, mosquito nets, the works. It was 5-star camping to the max. You can't come to South Africa and not have a braai. It's the typical thing to do. And especially when you're in a game reserve, you're out in nature, you're in the roots of what Africa is about. You've got to put some meat on that braai, some wild meat, some game, and just enjoy it.
I'm so glad you decided to cook tonight because I always think a man's place is in the kitchen.
Don't worry, I'm the braai master.
No, you're not. Janez is the tongue master, the braai master, the meat man. He always takes alpha male position of making the braai, so I knew that it was the most perfect, ideal situation.
Let's go, braai master.
This is my personal favorite. Ostrich boerewors, South African classic. I think every South African's had many of these in their lives, and this is the kind of thing you would eat at a cricket game, a rugby game, with some chutney, some tomato sauce, a boerewors roll. It's the perfect South African meal, quite frankly.
Nice fresh salad.
I'll tell you one thing though, that braaiing looks really easy, but there is a great technique to it. If you're braaiing for 30 or 40 people and they're all crowding around you and everyone's taking a piece of meat, it's quite a lot of pressure.
Okay. So what are we pairing it with?
We've got carrot salad with pineapple and raisins.
That's a traditional South African
That
dish,
is the
though,
traditional South African. We've got roasted cook, traditional South African. Bread.
Roasted cook. Now this is basically a rich bread roll that's just been toasted on the braai as well. Very good.
That is correct.
Braaiing is something typically South African, and we haven't done this anywhere in the world we've been. And it's something we as South Africans take great pride in. And especially when you're in a setting like Sanbona, you're in the middle of a game reserve, there are animals everywhere, you're under the stars, and the smell of that meat burning on the fire. Ah. Jeannie, taste this and tell me I'm not the braai master.
I already have a chop.
It's tender, it's well done, but not too well.
The best thing with South African food is that it tastes better when you eat it with your hands. South African men love how we say in South Africa, vlees, rice and aardappels. It's the most basic thing in the world. Meat, rice and potatoes. Caveman style.
I love braais. Braais are my best thing in the world. I would never leave South Africa purely because braaiing in South Africa makes it all worth the while.
Wildlife and game reserves often offer daytime game drives and nighttime game drives. We obviously wanted to do both, and just after dinner there was a sighting of the lions. So we decided we're so getting into that Land Rover and going to find our cats.
We've just had the best typical South African braai, and we're following it up with a night game safari drive. Now, I don't know about Jeannie, but the only thing I really want to see is one of those white lions, hopefully illuminated in the moonlight. I was quite apprehensive about going on a night game drive because how do you see animals in the dark? But I soon realized when we were on the Land Rover is that our game ranger had a big torch that basically illuminated the entire sky. And the first thing you notice is the shining of the eyes. You just see it everywhere.
Eyes everywhere.
Oh my goodness.
There are eyes everywhere watching us.
Why are you not shining that spotlight on the animal?
It's a zebra, so a day species, so they lack what's called a tapetum in their pupil of their eye. So their eyes can't adjust to this light going in their eyes very quickly, so they get blinded.
What kind of bush ethics apply for night game driving?
You see, that shining on day species ties into nocturnal animals hunting, because you can actually set up a hunt and a kill very easily. You know, you can see your lions over there, you've got your prey species ahead of you, you turn off all lights. Because obviously if you're shining on your prey species, you're giving them away to your predators. If you're shining on your predators, you're giving them away to the prey. As soon as you see that there's potentially a hunt going to happen, all lights off.
We drove around for a long time, and I think because we've watched so many movies, you almost expect the drum roll when you see these animals. But the nice thing is that they stumble upon you, and you do get that element of shock, that surprise, the minute you see them.
For the first hour or two, all we saw was basically the vegetarians, the animals that feed on grasses and on trees, and I wanted to see the predators. And suddenly there they were, in front of us, on the tracks, in the road, 2 white lions. They knew we were there, but they weren't nervous. And our game driver is very good at sensing body movement and what they're all about. And he could tell us they're not threatened by us, but they're watching us.
See, the thing that you've got to watch, it's like a domestic cat. When your little cat gets irritated at home, the ears go back, the tail starts switching from side to side, it crouches low, and you look at that compared to the body language you see in front of us. It's nothing similar.
No.
So this is a relaxed cat.
So if I had to get out of the car, would they attack me and eat me?
You know, lions' frame of mind at night is killing. But these are young lionesses, and young lioness would translate that they're not that confident. But it's not something I'm going to tell you to test out.
The lionesses almost had 2 completely different moods. The lioness closer to us was just chilling, gathering her thoughts, where the one further away was apprehensive, kept on standing up, peering over at us, looking out into the distance, kind of planning her next move.
These carnivorous beasts were just lying ahead of us so calmly, so passively. I almost wanted to go, hey, kitty, kitty. I wanted to see them move. I wanted to see their full size. A part of you wants the action. Another part of you is quite scared, because if they have to jump onto your car, they are deadly animals. And it's hard to perceive them to be like that, because they really are beautiful. We were just about to leave, so we put on the car, and suddenly they both stood up. Almost as if they knew that we wanted to leave. So they just teased us a little bit with their hunt. So we switched off all the lights. I think we even stopped the camera from rolling. And we were sitting in absolute darkness. And we could hear these phenomenal cats running around us. That was terrifying.
I'm not fearful of animals, but there's something about being a couple of meters from a lion that gets the adrenaline going.
Janez has no fear, but I suppose sitting with the game ranger in a car, in a solid structure with the lights on, it all seems okay. But after the lights went out, and then we switched them back on again, and we couldn't see one of the lions, the fear sunk in, and we're like, okay, I'm not scared of what I can see. I'm terrified, though, of what I can't see, and I know it's here. It's still playing in front of us. It's beautiful.
What a great morning. The best time to actually go game watching is early in the morning at sunrise. So it's 5:30.
And it really is the crack of dawn. But this is when a lot of the animals come out to the watering holes and come out to investigate what lies before them for today.
It's quite different to have a wildlife reserve in the Western Cape because of the vegetation. It's semi-arid desert kind of Karoo vegetation, which makes it quite hard to sustain animal life. If you go to Sanbona, you're not going to see the amount of animals as you do in the Kruger Park. Yet, it's a very personal experience. It's also a very flat terrain, so it's easier to spot the animals than in dense bush.
One can never understand the strength and the sheer magnitude of a rhino until you're a few meters away from one. They are tough and big creatures.
They look pretty chilled, though they're dangerous.
You know, they're sleeping now, so you approach with all the right factors in your favor, it'll be fine. You know, wind in your favor, you walk on the grass, you see there's a kudu standing in the background there.
Yeah.
So you get off, and you start walking, and that kudu barks because it sees you, it gives its alarm call. Those rhino are going to get up straight away, and they're going to be like, what's going on here? Why is that kudu barking?
We saw the rhinos and we actually went on foot to get a little bit closer to them. But in the jungle and in the wildlife, it's all about respect. It's about respecting their space. And then they're quite happy for you to be there.
Yeah, obviously we've seen the rhino there in that direction. What we're going to do, wind is perfect, our favor completely. So we'll walk up, we'll get a visual, and then we'll just watch them for a little bit. Obviously the purpose of a walk is to get in and get out with the animals not being aware of you. Then you can consider that a successful walk, because then you're watching natural behavior. While we approach, we're going to stay close together, single file. person in the back is responsible for keeping everybody in line. At no point does anyone break away from the group. When you break away from the group, you isolate yourself. You isolate yourself, you draw attention to yourself. If a situation does arise, you listen to my command implicitly. If I haven't said run, don't run. And our best form of defense is to stay as a group. On the approach, we're obviously going to be as quiet as we can. My hand goes up, it means stop. So you'll see there is a rhino highway here, so we'll walk on that, and then once we get into a suitable spot, we'll probably just sit down a little bit and view. Okay.
Going on foot to go look at the rhino is no problem, because how fast can a rhino be? 3 times as fast as a human? Immediately when you realize that, you know you've got to be careful and respectful.
The rhino can reach up to 53 kilometers an hour. I certainly wasn't going to outrun that. The different colors of the mountain were spellbinding because of every different shade of brown, every different shade of green, and the one mountain almost looked like it had fallen because you could follow how the rock had moved. Looking at those rock formations, it's unbelievable to think that a million years ago, that was all under sea, which is why that erosion has all taken place. It's just through time that has gone from being hard, solid rock and just developed to be this beautiful mountain. Where's the rock art? Oh, there.
I've always been fascinated by sand rock paintings. What is the purpose? Why did they do it?
Well, if you look at a lot of your older cultures, it's oral tradition. You know, there's no books, there's no stories. So this is one way of passing down legends, traditions, and teachings.
And they lived in this area or all around South Africa?
All around South Africa. You know, these are dated to between 5,000 to 3,000 years ago. But you go to Cape Agulhas and you'll see there's sand fishing traps on the beach there. So obviously what happened is the more and more Europeans arrived, persecuted them, they moved inland.
Now, if that is between 3,000 and 5,000 years old, how is it that we can still see it, that it hasn't worn or washed away?
Just the materials that they used. So a lot of blood mixed with a certain sandstone rock you get your ochre, which gives it more texture, animal fat, and it'll all help to preserve it.
Why did this cave provide the perfect home for the sand people?
Well, I think it's location, location, location. Look over here. You can see you've got your valley in front of us. So animal movement would have been either way down this valley. So you wait up here in the day, or in the heat of the day, you watch the animal movement, you send your hunting parties down.
And of course the view is stunning.
I think that would have been secondary in those days.
Prime property.
It's obviously the rock paintings are done by the Sand people, and the name of the reserve is called Sanbona. So what is the relation?
Well, that ties in both aspects. San represents the Sand people and Bona is to sea. So it's basically a recreation of their vision of what they experienced when they were living here.
This cave has almost given me that nesting feeling. I'm looking forward to going home.
It's going to be a good drive, and I think a trip back to Cape Town is incomplete without visiting your favorite place, Stellenbosch and Franschhoek.
Oh, I've always been a fan of the grape. Let's go. Perfect. Okay, bath time. Thank you.
Pleasure.
Sorry, you can't stay here for this either. Bye-bye. Cape Town. Bustling, phenomenal city.
It's magical. It's my favorite city.
I always thought that I had like a Bond girl alter ego. Abseiling? It had me sweating.
We're basically going over an overhang. This is probably the scariest part.
No!